And within a few months, the boys were with me here. I was at my mom's house. My dad died the day after I finished the bar exam. And so, in one sense, things were kind of, the dust was settling finally after a number of years. I had a babysitter. My mom was there. I knew economically what was going on, and kind of was able to take a breather. I had no feeling in my heart really for what was to be the future about Joyce. I hadn't really actually ever admitted to myself what my feelings were about Joyce. I was just so task-oriented, you know, the logic and the reasonableness and all that stuff, and what's right and what it says. One night, late summer evening, maybe August or September, and you know what they're like around here. It's kind of warm and it's dark, and the crickets are going. You can smell the sycamore trees. And after we prayed and it was dark, Jeff said to me, now he's now 9, Todd was 6. Jeff said in the darkness, "Dad, I miss Mom." And somehow in that moment my heart was just open, you know, and unguarded. And I went, you know what? I miss her too. And I began to think about things like the dreams of being grandparents together and the hopes that we had had. And I realized that, you know, those weren't happening. I was missing those too. So after I said goodnight to him, I went in and I wrote a letter to him, just to Joyce, to share those things that I was missing. As soon as I finished it, I was just about to seal the letter, the phone rang. It was Joyce who was calling. She was calling. She was up in Visalia and was calling to make an arrangement to visit the boys. And I said, "Oh gosh," I said, "I just finished writing this letter to you. You want me to mail it or shall I read it?" She said, "Oh, well, why don't you just read it?" And so
I was not blessed.
Yeah, like a letter. And so I read it. And before I could get to the end of it, she burst into tears.
Well, this letter was like nothing I had ever heard before. Something that had happened. It must have been the lack of demand on his time or something, the summer night, whatever it was. He was telling me things that he'd never shared before. He's sharing his heart. I was like, who is this? And I said, you can't say those things. It's been too long. It's been 4.5 years. I'm over it. Right. I was just bawling. I was just crying. I couldn't even really respond. So I hung up.
I was really confused. Just a feeling, man.
So I guess we didn't talk for a little while, but what was going on with me is Greg had taken the kids back from Hawaii to California, and I could not support them there. Hawaii is pretty expensive to live. So I decided to move back too. I had all my stuff in my brother's house, and I was looking at all that stuff, and I was thinking about where I was going to move up to Santa Cruz. And I was so tired. I'd been moving and moving and moving and running and running and running and running and all running away, and trying to get my life squared away. But I just thought, the Lord said to me, you know, I know what the scripture says is, if you're divorced, then you're either to remain single or you to remarry the person, because that's who you married. You know, they're still alive. Well, the guys I was dating as a Christian that were really faithful always told me that. And I kept saying, well, what about this for 2 Corinthians 5:17, you know, he's one of the old things, and I get to move on. And they no, really, you two have children, you really ought to get back together. So I wasn't making any progress. I wanted to move ahead, you know, all on my own. So then the Lord said, so you can either remain single, or you can remarry Greg or talk to him about it anyway. So what do you think? And I said, Lord, I'm scared. I don't know if it would work, you know, to try again, but he is a Christian. He is the father of my kids. I guess I could work on it a little bit. So I called him up, and I said, I decided not to move way further, and maybe we should get together and talk.